the biggest reasons why ventures are not succeeding is, number 2 is run out of cash, which, yeah, it's a big issue, and then not the right team. Yeah, my name is Tristan Senycia, and I'm involved with the Vault, which is like an accelerator. That's probably the best description for it, but it's not programmatic, it's more like a bespoke approach. So whatever's required is provided, as opposed to just having like a 3 or 9 month kind of process-driven, acceleration process.
Is it like an agency kind of thing? Is that what you would align it with?
We will, yeah. Anyway, you'll understand more as I present. I've also joined Business Station, which is like a not-for-profit, which pretty much runs the Australian Small Business Advisory Service. And today we're going to be talking about how to source capital and advisory support for your venture. And I've decided to sort of speak about both of these elements because they're sort of interrelated. Okay, so just to start off with, just thought I would sort of cast an image of where your venture fits into the world. So at the center of any venture, you've got typically a unique product, service, or process. And then in order for it to be commercialized, you need to build a lot of other venture infrastructure. And then beyond that, if you're in a lucky kind of city, then you've got a significant level of support outside of that, which I call the startup ecosystem. And there's various kinds of innovation infrastructure that I'll run through, and VC is one of them, but that's kind of a later stage. And there's micro VC, but we'll talk about everything else that leads up to that. Anyway, so one of the points I wanted to make was accelerators in their various forms, whether they be accelerators, venture builders, there's even applied VCs, and they're all taking kind of a similar approach, except some are more all-encompassing than others, some are more end-to-end. They can provide not only capital, but also they can embed advisory support. And it's really important that you gauge before you embark on any of these acceleration processes, kind of the caliber of the people behind the advisory service, right? Because you always want to be working with the best people. So I'll just give you a quick overview about the accelerator design that we apply at the Startup Vault UK. And so effectively, at the center of it is people, highly experienced people who are already super well connected. So you don't need to, go into London, not that you would right now. Yeah, so they already have the connections to capital and various other forms of support. So we've got a pretty good thing going with Startup Giants, who actually, it used to be an angel syndicate called Angel's Den, and now it's been transformed into more of an angel syndicate platform, which once you're ready and your angel, you're ready, you're investment ready from the perspective of Startup Giants, then you can access a pipeline. They can actually create a pipeline of investors for you. Now, in terms of defining what investment readiness means, there's actually a definition that's now agreed upon within the context of Startup Giants. So that makes life a lot easier. At least you know what you're aiming for, right? Beyond that, advisors can actually join your team for a period of time, or they can join your team on a permanent basis. So they can either join as board advisors or interim execs to help shape your venture, or they can actually join your executive team and help you become more investable through team. So if you've got a great team, as the previous speaker mentioned, your investability can go up considerably. Now, let's just take a look and contrast the relative strength of the Australian versus the UK ecosystems. So Australia is making progress in this regard, but there's quite a long way to catch up in order to get on the same level as like a top tier country like the UK. And of course, the US is sort of in a class of its own. But it's not to, I guess, question the future of the Australian ecosystem. It's more to sort of broaden your horizons to start thinking more globally about, maybe my investors aren't here. They might be other places. But if you look at some of the key indicators, in terms of number of accelerators in the UK, currently there are 181. So there might be at most a couple of dozen in Australia. VCs, we do have 2 in Perth, but in London there's between 1 and 200. And then you've just got a lot more active tech investors because it's a top tier kind of investment hub, right? We've also got, across in the UK, a lot more third sector organisations. I happen to be part of one of them in Australia called Business Station that supports growth of small business through, advisory service. And then the focus, there's a much more heavy focus on venture commercialisation, whereas ScoMo is much more interested in tech adoption in Australia at this moment in time. At least that's my perception, right? So let's take a look at some of the sources of early stage venture capital. So typically when you start your venture, you've got to raise from the people that know, like, and trust you. So typically, they've known you for a period of time. So they can be your friends, they can be fools because they can get in really early and not know what they're investing in. And of course your family. So they're typically, and if you look at the amount of money spent, invested into ventures, then this is a large amount of it. It's much higher than venture capital, actually, in aggregate. And the most amount of money is spent by the actual founders. Anyway, once you kind of get to the end of your FFF amount, then accelerators can help bridge you to the next level of investment readiness. And there are earlier stage ones and there are later stage ones like YC that already expect a 7-figure turnover. So they can be funded. It's interesting where the funds for accelerators come from. They can be corporate-backed, which is like Better Labs, angel-backed, which is kind of similar to the model that we've got. Government, I've seen one be funded by a lottery, and CSR. Sometimes you can get a lot of cash if you're doing something sustainable or socially responsible, and that fits the brand image of the corporate that's wanting to support you. Then there's angel syndicates, and we have to remember that you've got to be in the top 1%. And this is a figure quoted from entrepreneur.com, and that's for the US. And then it drops off really quickly. So venture capital is actually 1 in 2,000, which is not so many. But that's okay because not everyone needs venture capital, right, to succeed. But they're expecting that high growth. As the previous speaker mentioned as well, there are family offices. In WA, they seem to be, my perception is that they invest in what they understand, and that tends to be, mining, oil and gas. Whereas in other geographies, there's a bit more of a spread of what they're interested in. And then there's grants and public tenders. So if you happen to be doing something that the government wants to get done, then there can be millions upon millions of dollars to help achieve that, right? So accessing startup advice cost effectively is another thing that really is important. So once you've got the capital, how do you deploy it efficiently? So advisory, ad hoc advisory, which is when you bring someone on for a quick hour or two here and there. And that can be generalized, like your go-to-market strategy, which is kind of what I specialize in, or it can be specialized. It can be looking more at like marketing, branding, the various other micro-disciplines. And there are, I've got a database of about 100 micro-disciplines that operate. That can be charged by the hour. Through the Australian Small Business Advisory Service, you can actually access quite a bit for free, which is handy. That can help. Coaching is more ongoing. So that means that they continue on with you and grow with you. And that's really good from a continuity standpoint. So typically people that are post-traction get on board a coach to help them accelerate quicker. Then there's the NEDs, who might take a less of a fee, and they might require options so that they can sort of spread the risk and reward of the venture. And they can add a lot of credibility if you get the right people involved. Fee for service, if you don't have a lot of cash, then try to minimize that. There is a natural bias in founders to hire downwards rather than hiring upwards. Of course you need people working for you, but you also need people better than you so that you can learn from them, right? And then when you get better and better people involved, then there's like this natural snowballing effect. People start to take you a lot more seriously, and opportunity, people open doors a lot quicker. Instead of you knocking on all these doors, you've got 5 or 6 people, and some of them are really good. And you might not be the best one, right? And that's all good, and that's all fine. So the idea, understanding how much support you need depends on how, this is the valley of death diagram, where before you launch a venture, you go into debt. Effectively, you take a loss for a period of time, and then your venture becomes profitable at the end. But if you run through an accelerator program, there's the potential to actually make that valley a lot shallower and shorter, because people will have already solved a lot of the problems that you are kind of new to you and take you by surprise. And just to highlight the point once more, it's a combination of obviously team and capital. Two of the biggest reasons why ventures are not succeeding is, number 2 is run out of cash, which, it's a big issue, and then not the right team. So if you're unable to assemble like an internal team, a founding team that functions well, have external stakeholders get on the same page, and also, source NEDs, non-executives, non-executive directors or advisors in the right way, then you can be in a situation that you've got a pretty weak team, and then you end up not succeeding. Excellent, so last 2 minutes. So yeah, do get in touch if you feel that you've got a high growth potential, viable, investable opportunity. And that, just reach out to us at the Vault. If you want to know more about the Vault, check on LinkedIn. The website is not up to speed right now. And if you're interested in just, having a chat, you can access my time through the Australian Small Business Advisory Services, and we can look at your situation and, explore what to do next. Excellent. Thanks so much.